Welcome back to the Gaming Coffee Club. Grab your favourite brew, pull up a chair, and let's talk some gaming news. We have a massive week of news to get through today. We're talking about an absolute earthquake in the Xbox leadership that completely changes the landscape of the whole Xbox console world right now. PS5 Pro selling out everywhere, and PlayStation reportedly changing their minds about PC ports, so PC games from PlayStation could be no more, and a certain Bloodborne rumour that has got the internet losing its mind. However, before we dive into all of that, I need to remind you to drink your coffee in style. You can grab our official Gaming Coffee Club mugs right now on the YouTube merch shelf just below this video if you're watching YouTube. If you're not, head on over to purepsx.com to pick one up. It genuinely helps support the show, and honestly, your coffee is just going to taste better out of one of these bad boys. All right, now we've got that out of the way. Let's get on to the quick news roundup, which we're starting the podcast with now. So I'll do just really quick news, then we'll get on to the bigger stuff. And we've got a lot to talk about this week. First off, the Marathon Server Slam, which is basically their beta test, which is open to everyone to jump in and check out for free. You just download it from the PlayStation Store, is now live. And this is running until the 2nd of March. So not as soon as we turn over onto the 2nd, it's like near the end of the day. So you've got a bit of time to jump in and check it out if you've not tried it already. Before the game launches on, I think it's the 5th of March. And this is Sony's latest big live service push. You know how Sony has kind of become obsessed with live service games. They had Concord, which was an absolute cataclysmic disaster, and they're hoping that Marathon does not go that way. I'm hoping it doesn't. I don't think it will, but I'm not sure how successful it will be. So this is from Bungie, who also brought us Halo and Destiny. I think a lot of the people that worked on Halo, they're probably not there. It's probably quite a different studio. As we know, Bungie got purchased by Sony, and this Marathon has not been without its hiccups. I think they got taken to court or settled out of court for stealing an artist's art and using it in the game without, giving them credit or paying them or whatever. But that's all been resolved, and it's been delayed as well, so bumpy development. And now we've got this chance to jump in and check it out. And I recommend you do. I have jumped in to play it, and one thing that just jumps out to me right away is the world building, the visuals, the kind of intro story. You get this wee intro trailer bit, kind of setting things up. It's awesome, and it really drew me into the world and just made me long for like a single player story game built in this universe. I think that would absolutely tear. Then I jumped into the game and played it. Like the menus, the UI is a bit all over the place and a bit complicated. The AI, the actual AI characters you fight against at various points in this are really quite tough. I found that they did not mess about. And then on the whole, it was just okay. It was good fun what I played, but I wasn't thinking like, I can't wait to play this again. That's, again, maybe just a personal thing because I'm just not really into multiplayer games right now. I'm in the phase, I say this every week, of single player games. I've bought a whole bunch of more games, which will be arriving imminently. I have a stack of physical games still in their plastic wrappers I'm working my way through. So this doesn't really fit into that. And, these games do take up a lot of time, and then they do eventually then take up a fair bit of money as well with all the microtransactions that are in them. This is not free to play when it launches. It is, I think, around about 35 or 40 pounds, and that's probably, about $45. So check it out. This is your chance to play it and see what you think. I do think they could have had something really special here with, imagine like a Halo game set in this universe. I think it would be so freaking cool. Jump in, decide for yourself, see what you think. And if you've got any buddies that download it as well, you can jump in a squad of you, 3 of yous, jump in as your runner, play it and see what you think. And sound off in the comments if you've checked this out so far. We had a big game release this week. Resident Evil 9 has launched. It looks absolutely spectacular. It has actually sold out. Physical copies of this have sold out all over the place on multiple platforms. I've heard this happen on PlayStation in certain regions and also on Nintendo Switch 2. I'm pretty sure a lot of you listening have picked this up. It looks spectacular. Another return to form for Capcom, who are just killing it with this kind of setup they've got going on, where they do, a remake game, then a new game in the Resident Evil franchise, then they go back to a remake, and then they go into a new game. So this is a new game. This is basically Resident Evil 9, and it's called Requiem. And it looks terrifying. From what I've seen of it, it looks kind of like two games in one. So you've got the Leon chapters, which look a lot more action-like and a lot more kind of like Resident Evil 4. And then you've got the Grace missions or chapters, and that looks a lot more like Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, kind of, first person, really creepy as hell. You can change the view between first person and third person, but it does recommend you do her missions in first person. A lot less action orientated, and much more kind of survival-esque than the Leon missions, where he's just... It's not that Leon's stuck in there with the zombies are stuck in with Leon and he's going to kick their ass. But it does look amazing. Not going to lie, I'm too scared. I'm a big scaredy cat. I might pick this one up eventually. My backlog is ridiculous. I did just order another Resident Evil game though to play in my backlog. It should be arriving tomorrow, I think, and that is Resident Evil 4 Gold Edition. It has the DLC missions with like Ada Wong and stuff like that. So I'm being brave and I'll jump into that. But Resident Evil 4, again, like I say, it's a bit more action orientated. Like, I can deal with that. I like that. It's not as terrifying. Same way I like Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. I know it was a bit short and stuff like that. Playing as, Jill Valentine, trying to escape Nemesis. A lot less scary than, the Resident Evil 2 remake. But my favourite of all time is probably the original Resident Evil 2. I just think that's an absolute masterpiece. But Requiem's out. It is doing absolutely incredible. And we will actually talk about this again, because the best way to play Resident Evil 9 Requiem right now on console is the PlayStation 5 Pro, which we'll talk about later on, because it's had an update and it seems to be even better now. Now, this is just random and a bit of fun, but Netflix on PlayStation 3, yes, is no more. It is now leaving PlayStation 3 after all these years. Probably a lot of people are still using their PS3, right? And they probably are still watching Netflix, but it is now no longer going to be supported from March the 2nd. So that is the end of an era. You'll need to upgrade to a PS4 or a PS5 or PS5 Pro or whatever. But Netflix on PS3 is going to be no more. And I just wanted to let you know, because I still have my PS3 set up behind me. I love it. It is an incredible machine. So many good games on it. And now Netflix is going. That kind of sucks, doesn't it? Let's fingers crossed that the actual PlayStation 3 store doesn't go next. We want to keep that going forever, please, Sony. Okay, now we've got that quick news out of the way. Let's get into the big stories this week, starting off with the massive news coming out of Xbox. This is a big one. Let's jump into it. So the big news this week is Phil Spencer is retiring as the CEO of Xbox. And it's really weird timing this, because it is Xbox's 25th anniversary, I think, this year. I thought he would have hung about until then. And also, it was kind of late breaking news on a Friday, so that I always find bad news gets released by companies then, so that markets can't react, too much to it, kind of settles over the weekend while the markets are closed. And also, sometimes the media can't respond as much as well, or as quickly. But this was surprising. I guess a lot of people thought this would happen at some point, but just not right now, and in the manner it happened, and the fallout from it, and who's taking over, which we'll get into today. So if you're not aware of this, Phil Spencer took over in 2014 during a pretty rough time for Xbox, after the whole Xbox One Don Matrick fiasco, where they launched Xbox One and it was a complete disaster. It was just so focused on like TV and entertainment, and like gaming was an afterthought. It was expensive, it was underpowered, it came bundled with Kinect, which nobody wanted, and was just a disaster. So Phil took over after that point and, you know, kind of, I would say, steadied the ship, did well initially, I thought. And I just wanted to say, like, what I've seen of Phil and all the interviews and everything, he seems like a great guy. And some of the stuff that's happened later on, it doesn't seem like it would be his decisions, if you ask me. But we'll get into that in a minute. But early on, he did introduce things like the backwards compatibility program, which was amazing, and is personally for me the main reason, and probably one of the only reasons I still use my Xboxes, because games from the original Xbox and the Xbox 360, there's still a pretty big library of games that you can just play. You put the disc in and it downloads, like, you know, the emulated version or whatever it is, and it just, you know, it plays it. It's great. Or you just, you know, you can buy it digitally. So that was really good. I felt like a bit of Phil Spencer's soul died when they stopped doing that. They, you know, they stopped adding games to the library, which was a shame. It'd be good if they went through them all, because it's just fantastic and a really unique selling point in my mind. And then they also did, you know, initially Game Pass, love it or hate it. It was, I would say, a consumer-friendly initiative when it was launched. You know, it's low price and games day one. Business-wise, I don't know how much sense it does or did make, because I don't think it was sustainable in the long run. And as we have seen with, you know, the prices just going up and up, and I think that would have been Microsoft's end game, to have everyone on that and no physical games, no buying digital games, just everybody on this subscription service, which is Game Pass, and they would just keep raising the price. So that is, I guess, the two big things, you know, Phil launched under his time. And, you know, I'd say more recently, it felt like he was kind of forced to go out there and, you know, smile through a whole bunch of decisions which came from above, you know, from Satya Nadella, who's the CEO of Microsoft and seems to be just obsessed with all things AI. Just when you think back to, like, the Xbox did a special business podcast thing, like a business update podcast, they called it. I'm sure it was. And it was Phil Spencer, Sarah Bond, and Matt Booty sitting there talking about, you know, these 4 games which were coming to Xbox. And then, you know, the floodgates just opened. Everything was going to Xbox, going to Switch, you name it. So that didn't pan out as, you know, we expected. Also, when another thing, I guess, big under Phil's tenure was, you know, buying up studios. They pretty much bought up half the industry. So they bought, you know, Bethesda for a couple of billion, and then for like 70 billion, they bought Activision, Blizzard, King, you know, Call of Duty, and a ton of other franchises. And I think, you know, I just think they would have done that to be aggressive and have more exclusives, because their first party studios were stumbling, which we'll talk about in a little bit as well. So I genuinely think, you know, Phil would have wanted to be a bit more aggressive and have more exclusives to help sell more consoles, because the Xbox Series X, it is a great bit of hardware. It's a really good console. It's a good bit of kit. Maybe they did make a mistake releasing the Xbox, the Series X and S. They should have just had, you know, one power level for the two consoles. Even if it was a lower powered Series S, I know people would say, oh, you're holding the industry back, but if they were both at that same level, one with a disk drive, one not, it would still, I think, have been easier for developers, because that would have then just been the Xbox target. The same way, like PlayStation, you have the digital and then the full fat one with the disk drive. It's still the same hardware inside. It's easier for the developers. So maybe that was a bit of a mistake in hindsight. I did really like the Series S. I thought it was a nice bit of hardware as well. But Phil's gone. He's announced he's retiring. Then Sarah Bond, who was basically, it seemed like she was groomed to be Phil's replacement. She was going to be the new head of Xbox out of the blue on the exact same day. And I think probably, or seemingly, for not receiving the expected promotion to, you know, the CEO of Xbox, she left the same day. It was like, well, what? Okay, here we go. What's happening here? Something's going on behind closed doors. So, and then almost immediately we had this article from Tom Warren at The Verge, which kind of like, it felt like a bit of a hit piece. It was blaming her for everything. It kind of seemed like, for the momentum shift to the terrible, this is an Xbox ad campaign, which I personally hated. I thought it was absolutely garbage. And it seems a bit obvious like they're using her as a scapegoat to maybe, distance themselves from a lot of these recent failures. Maybe she was, on point for these decisions, but there is plenty of other leadership there and above her and beneath her. So it feels to me like they're maybe pinning the blame on her a little bit here. And as much as I do like Tom Warren's reporting and a lot of the stuff he writes about, I think The Verge is great reading stuff over there. He's very much like a Microsoft mouthpiece, I think, at this point, He could be like Microsoft's PR. So take all that with a pinch of salt. And then it didn't end there, all the changes. We then had the new CEO. And we were like, who's this going to be? Some, big time experienced leader from the gaming world. And no, it wasn't. It kind of came out of the blue, out of left field. And the new CEO is Asha Sharma. And she comes from a heavy AI background within Microsoft, having focused on core AI and Microsoft Copilot for the last 2 years. Oh. Now, we need to give everyone a chance here and not, jump on the negativity bandwagon. But as soon as I heard that, I thought, oh no, micro slop strikes again. She's saying all the right things, right? So give her credit there. Like, she's put out statements and she's saying about she's going to focus on the, the core of Xbox again, focusing on the console, all this kind of stuff. All good stuff, which you read and you go, yeah, that's great. But if you've ever worked in the corporate world, like I have previously, it felt like just CEO buzzword soup. It had every kind of, CEO, generic buzzword statement that they usually use to appease customers or, stakeholders whilst doing whatever else it is they actually want to do. So I was like, okay, that's what you expected. And then she immediately jumped onto Twitter, and it felt like she was kind of trying to recreate the kind of Phil Spencer kind of aura and connection he has with gamers, because he is a gamer. He plays games all the time. You can even add him on like Xbox and follow him on Xbox, so he kind of shows up on your friends list. And I've got him on it, and he's not recently. He's not been. Maybe I deleted him. I can't remember. I'll need to check. But sorry, Phil. But he was always on playing games like all the time. I actually used to sometimes wonder, like, this guy has the best job on earth. He's clearly getting paid well, Microsoft CEO, and he's playing games all the time. I'm sure he does. He was doing plenty of other stuff, but he was a gamer is the point I'm trying to make. So he would engage with people on Twitter all the time. And her Twitter account just kind of came out of the blue. It seemed like it was only made very recently. And it was kind of strange. A lot of people were even suggesting that some of the responses were very like AI-esque, as if, is she actually responding to these? Is it AI? Now, I hope people at Microsoft would not be stupid enough to do that, because if they actually find that out and that was the case, which I hope it's not, I hope it's just a case of, a CEO being like a fish out of water here in this world that they're not really familiar with and trying to, navigate their way around it. So they kind of seem a bit awkward and clunky. But it was kind of bizarre, some of the responses. And then it continued. This is the one that caught my eye. An Xbox gamer or fan on Twitter basically dropped them a tweet saying, we'd really like exclusives to return, and she replied saying, heard you, which is a huge statement to make, because Xbox is shipping pretty much all their first party games now on PlayStation. Think about it. Halo's on the way next. Once that arrives, they really have no exclusive first party games left that have not really went over, which are big ones. Flight Simulator's over there just now on PlayStation. You've got Forza Horizon 5's there. Forza Horizon 6 is on the way later on this year. Starfield, I guess, has not made the jump yet, albeit that was definitely not the success they were hoping it was going to be. But the point I'm making is they're all over there. It would be a massive turnaround if they decided not to. I personally think it would be better for them if they did do that. They got aggressive again, bring back that only on Xbox sticker you used to see on the 360 game cases. Get aggressive, get some good exclusives on the go. It might help with their console sales. However, it does look like they're going the way of, becoming a PC in the future instead of being a console, so it might not then matter as much. And then this wasn't all the news, because then more, which just kind of surprised me, was Matt Booty got promoted. Yes. I have no idea what the hell this guy does. And this might be one of the biggest concerns out of all of these things, because he's been promoted to Chief Content Officer. He used to be, I think he was the head of Xbox Game Studios since 2018, so that's a long time he's been in the hot seat. And look at Xbox's top IPs over that time. They have been properly mismanaged. I remember in an interview previously, Phil Spencer said something like, if we lose Halo, we lose Xbox. And then we had Halo Infinite was meant to be a Series X launch title. It didn't launch alongside the console. Big miss. The trailer looked pretty crap. There was pop-in. Textures looked really basic. Then when it did launch, it felt like a completely half-finished game. It felt like one biome for a much bigger game where you'd maybe go into different biomes, different areas, different locations. It just was such an own goal when that could have been, the flagship title for the console. Then, think about other games like Redfall. They hyped up Redfall so freaking much, and it was absolutely garbage. And I'm saying that I played this on launch day on Xbox Series S via Game Pass, and oh my word. People, I don't know what to tell you. It was so bad. There was screen tearing all over the place, textures not loading in. There was artifacts popping up you'd see if your GPU was on its way out and about to blow up. It looked terrible. And the actual game wasn't that good either. So it's it hyped this up, the new big thing from Arcane Studios, and then this dropped. You're how do they not know that they must have been playtesting this? How does that get through, any form of testing, user testing? I'm sure they had a whole bunch of gaming influencers and all that as well, playing it and checking it out. And supposedly they did do that at one point, but they played a different build from the build that we got, launched. So you're what the hell's going on? And then that's not all. Starfield. Actually, let's park Starfield for a minute, because there's another one which I also couldn't believe the state it shipped in. So we had Forza Horizon games have been incredible, amazing, and one that, shares its namesake with is Forza Motorsport. That was Xbox's version of Gran Turismo. So Gran Turismo, when it launched, super polished, amazing, driving simulator, the real driving simulator. And then we had Xbox again. This is maybe part of the problem. They overhype everything and then underdeliver. So they overhyped again Forza Motorsport. And this is another one I played. And there's videos on one of my other YouTube channels of me playing this and driving along, and the actual track disappears. The car is floating. You're kind of important in a driving game. Maybe you could let it fly if, a couple of trees don't appear or pop in or glitch or something. But the actual track disappearing, it was I was playing Mario Kart Rainbow Road. I was what is going on here? So that shipped in a poor state as well. Then let's get on to the big one here. Starfield. This is the one which I think was the last straw. I think if Starfield was successful, they would have remained in the exclusives game and, kept exclusives for the Xbox consoles. It didn't. It was not this huge title they thought it was going to be. They thought this was going to be like the next Skyrim or something, and it just wasn't. And then when you play the game, I could not believe the amount of loading screens in it. It could have been so much better, but it was like a loading screen simulator. Between every area and room and stuff, there was a loading screen. I was like, what is going on here? And it just totally breaks the immersion. And again, overhyped it with, you can go to every planet, here, there, everywhere. There's thousands of galaxies, and it's like, you would be better playing No Man's Sky. Seriously, much better game. And then we've had other people who've been involved with Xbox chipping in on these huge changes, because having a CEO who's not a gamer being in charge of Xbox, I think it's totally fine. I don't think you need to be a gamer. Like, I don't think that's a prerequisite to, being able to run a good business. However, I do think her having experience of the gaming world would have helped help her navigate this. And just understand the lie of the land and, the challenges and concerns and opportunities. She doesn't seem to have that. It seems like as well, our gamer tag was just set up literally like a month ago, and who knows whether it's her that's been playing it or it's been some intern at Xbox has been told, right, go play all these games. So Sharma acknowledged the investment Xbox fans and customers have poured into the ecosystem over the years and seemed genuinely keen to emphasize her commitment to console hardware. I think that our core Xbox fans and players have invested up to 25 years of themselves in these universes and our console. I want to make sure everybody knows I'm committed to Xbox, starting with the console. We're going to keep meeting players where they are. The world continues to evolve and change. We're going to make sure Xbox is a great place for developers and players. We want to invest in reducing the artificial divide between different types of devices that they want to use with us. I think that's going to mean a lot more investment in breaking down the barriers and helping developers build ones and show up across different hardware experiences. For me, I believe Xbox starts with its fans and will grow from there. That's what I wanted to signal with the return to Xbox. That sounds like saying a whole lot, but also saying that nothing is going to change. This whole meeting players where they are and stuff, that's just that continuation of this Xbox. Everything is an Xbox, So I don't know how much any of that's going to change, And then Seamus Blackley, who was the co-creator of the original Xbox, chimed in and he commented that he feels Asha is there to sunset the console. Now, I hate to say this, but I kind of agree with him. Now, just think back. I have been an Xbox gamer since the 360, and just think about the last 6 years, 4, 5 or 6 years, and think about all the mixed messaging. Like, Xbox gamers have just been getting just literally kicked from pillar to post, with being told one thing and then Microsoft and Xbox do something completely different. The messaging has just been a disaster. They say they're doing something, and in the background, they're just working on something completely different. Because even if you think about the 4 games thing, when they said only 4 games are going to Xbox and Switch, I can't remember if they said both at the time, and it was an experiment. I'm sure Phil was asked point blank if Indiana Jones is going to PlayStation. He might have been asked Indiana Jones and Starfield, but Indiana Jones was definitely one of them, and he point blank said no. And then literally, it was like a month later, it was announced it was going to PlayStation. So they know that these things are happening behind the scenes, and they're just lying to the fan base. Are we just getting sold another fake reality here from the new CEO, just trying to maybe galvanize a little bit of support whilst she goes about doing whatever it is she was brought in to do, which I think is probably one of two things. I hope she is going to do what she says she is, focus on the console back to its core. Let's see what happens. We need action, not words. Microsoft, or Microslop, as we'd love to call them. It's funny, she actually mentioned not, using AI slop in games when we had Satya a few weeks ago saying he hates that term. So I think that's all been specifically engineered. However, back on track, I think one of two things is going to happen. Firstly, I do hope she does what she says she's going to do. I hope it's a success. We need a strong Xbox in the console gaming industry because that keeps PlayStation on its toes and, to a lesser extent, Nintendo Switch, because they do kind of, dance to the beat of their own drum and do their own thing. But what I think is more likely going to happen is, one, this is Satcha's person put in place who's going to do, exactly what he wants, and that is going to be AI here, there, and everywhere. Like Copilot. Oh, geez, I'm half surprised they didn't actually just announce that Copilot is the new CEO of Xbox. That wouldn't surprise me. So yeah, we're going to have a lot more AI, for better or worse. I don't know. I'm not feeling it. And then I think as well, having this new CEO, which is kind of an unknown in the gaming space, it feels a little bit left field. All our AI experience, this whole idea of sunsetting the Xbox brand, or in particular their hardware, wouldn't surprise me at all. Either two ways, it's done intentionally and slowly and it drifts away, or, they start announcing that, it is just cratering as it has been for a while and it's not turning around and it's, okay, we're cutting our ties. Bye-bye Xbox. It's like maybe someone has been set up to fail here in this position. It's an interesting time. I'd love to know what you all think about this, because I could make a huge video just talking about this for hours, but I've already spoke about it for long enough. Way too long. And we need to get on to some other news, which is what I'm going to do right now with some PlayStation news. Now, this story kind of ties in with what's going on over at Xbox, and this ties in with that because I know they've got their new leadership, but it still looks like their next console is going to be a PC, basically. And Sony has quietly in the background decided that, all our games going to PC is no more. And this comes from pretty reliable insiders or leakers, whatever you want to say. And we've got Bloomberg's Jason Schreier and also Nate the Hate, who's, both of these guys have predicted tons of stuff accurately previously. And on Twitter, we have got Nate the Hate has said, you'll be seeing fewer single player games arrive on PC. The decision to shift away from supporting PC was made last year. Naturally, some may still release, pending how far along the ports were, but it no longer appears to be a priority for Sony moving forward. And then Schreier also mentioned on the Triple Click podcast, I think the sense I'm getting is that Sony is backing away from putting its exclusive console stuff, like traditional single player stuff, on PC. Very, very interesting. So the PC ports we've seen, like, Spider-Man and Ghost of Tsushima and PC, maybe that strategy isn't working as they'd hoped. It's probably not making them maybe as much money as, they could potentially be losing by having that exclusivity to PC. This article goes on and it says here, the decision doesn't look so surprising once you dig into the facts around this. For example, PC ports generated around 1.5% of PlayStation's revenue in the 4 years since the strategy got underway in earnest. A drop in the ocean, really, which with much of that driven by the wildly successful Helldivers 2. Interesting. It says here as well, it's worth noting that there's no indication the platform holder will stop porting live service games such as Marvel's Tokon Fighting Souls or 4Loop. It's also unlikely to change its approach to externally developed games like Death Stranding 2 on the Beach and Kena Scars of Cosmora, neither of which are created in-house by wholly owned studios. But it could potentially mean major in-house projects like Intergalactic, The Heretic Prophet, and Marvel's Wolverine remain PS5 exclusive going forward. There we go. I guess that's a big shift, and I actually think it's a smart one. I think these companies are now realizing this is part of the secret sauce to Nintendo's success. Obviously, and I say part of it because there's a whole bunch of other features. You know, they do make amazing games and have amazing IPs which are beloved the world over. Sony, I think, wants to emulate a bit more of that because that is where the money's at. And with more and more people moving to PC gaming because they're like, well, wait a minute, I can play PlayStation, Xbox, and PC games there. That's impacting PlayStation and Xbox sales. That's why the Switch is still doing so well. If you want to play those Switch 2 games, you need a Switch 2. You ain't playing Donkey Kong Bonanza on your PC. So I think this makes sense. I actually think it's a smart move. A lot of people I know won't like it and will disagree with me. But for the health of the games console industry and for Sony PlayStation 5 in particular, and you know, whatever comes next, this is a smart move. Even if they did it and it's like, you know, much, I mean, they had done it timed exclusives, I guess you could previously say, like Spider-Man and all that, you know, the Ghost of Tsushima, they were on console for a fair while before they came to PC. It wasn't like day and date like Xbox has been doing. I think the big single player games could be the tentpole games which help shift PlayStation 5 consoles. And I mean, like live service games like Helldivers 2, that makes sense because they live or die based on having a strong audience of engaged players. So they need the biggest player base they possibly can. Single players games, that's what they want to help shift PlayStation consoles. What do you think about that? Do you agree with Sony changing their plan here, moving away from PC? Do you think it's a good thing? Do you think it's a bad thing? I guess it probably depends on where you play your games. If you're on PC and you like playing PlayStation games, you might think, oh no, this sucks. But this doesn't surprise me either because just think what was around the corner with the next generation. If the next gen Xbox is a PC, you better believe it's going to be everywhere. You can play all your PlayStation games on Xbox. Sony would hate that if they couldn't actually block it at the software level, which I doubt they could if the next Xbox PC, you know, is just a PC and allows you to play Steam. Some PlayStation games are on Steam. What are you going to do? So this is the best, you know, plan of attack. Stop shipping your exclusives on PC. Simples. We're over at the PlayStation blog here for some exciting news here. And, you know, we were talking about PlayStation games going to PC and they are significantly more powerful. So you probably want to maximize that plastic box under your TV, your PS5 Pro. And there's a big technical leap coming to the PS5 Pro very soon. A major software update is dropping that drastically upgrades the PlayStation's Spectral Super Resolution, so PSSR. Let's just call it PSSR 2. And this new update takes a completely different approach, promising to fix shimmering and ghosting issues and significantly improve image quality for over 50 supported titles. Now, we've got a message from Capcom here, and they basically said they've focused on enhancing the presentation quality of the protagonist through an upgraded version of the RE engine. But they mentioned PSSR, and it says the upgraded PSSR has allowed us to elevate our expressiveness by successfully processing these details and textural particles, which are traditionally difficult to upscale because of their intricacy. We hope you will experience this unprecedented level of horror and visual fidelity and the new gameplay feel it delivers. So this new update is on the back of their work with AMD and their Project Amethyst partnership. And through AMD's FSR4 upscaling technology, PC gamers have already seen the benefits of our collaboration. With updated PSSR, we're delivering the very latest of this co-developed technology with a further 6 months of refinement for PS5 Pro players. We look forward to more news in March, so we've got more coming in March, when multiple existing games upgrade to the improved PSSR. There will also be a system software update at that time. Selecting enhanced PSSR image quality and settings on PS5 Pro will allow you to experience the new PSSR with any PS5 Pro games that currently support PSSR 1, let's call it. Once the system update releases next month, try it and see. Some games may have noticeably crisper graphics. Now, this is cool. This is what we wanted to see. This is, I guess, what we expected at launch from the PS5 Pro, but it is just getting better and better over time. With how wild the price of hardware is getting, I think this just looks like a better and better buy if you are just wanting the best console out there, especially for games like Resident Evil, Requiem, Wolverine. Let's not forget GTA 6, PSSR 2 on that. This is going to be the best place probably to play GTA 6 when it launches. So if you've got a PlayStation 5 Pro, make sure you pick up Resident Evil Requiem to check it out because it is available right away in that game to check out. And this leads on to our next story about the PS5 Pro selling like hotcakes. The Gamer is reporting that the PS5 Pro is sold out on the PlayStation Store, and it's probably because of Resident Evil Requiem. Yes. Why do you think that is, people? Well, Resident Evil Requiem is getting just rave reviews, and the experts over at Digital Foundry were very positive about the PS5 Pro version, which they said was head and shoulders above every other console, considering how big a deal Requiem is and how well it's selling. Everyone can only imagine that people are buying it to pick up, the PS5 Pro, and Resident Evil Requiem is the way to go. And that looks like that's exactly what has happened, as pointed out by Redditor, the Elite Freak, on the PS5 Pro subreddit, as it is completely sold out on PlayStation's official website in both the US and the UK. Both of them mention it is currently unavailable and no word on whether stock is incoming. And this ties back to our previous article where this PSSR 2 is basically being used in Resident Evil Requiem, and it's just showing off the power of the upscaling abilities of the PlayStation 5 Pro. And it looks like that, it's the best place to play this right now. Other than PC, obviously, this is the best console experience you can have. And this game caused a lot of people to pull the trigger and buy a PS5 Pro. Just think what's going to happen next, with GTA 6. So, upgraded PSSR is being used right now in Requiem. We've got GTA 6 just around the corner. We've got Wolverine. All three of these games are massive reasons, I think, to pick up a PS5 Pro if you're in the market for a PlayStation console. If you've got the standard PS5, and you're cool with that, that's fine. You're all good. If you're thinking about buying a PS5 or you want an upgrade, I would buy one of these just now, because the way the world's going, it's probably going to get even more expensive thanks to AI just wrecking everything. So maybe I should get really brave and buy Resident Evil Requiem now for my PS5 Pro. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Now, our first story is tied to our Gaming Coffee Club question of the week, because when this news broke, I wanted to get all of your opinions on it. And I said Xbox just got a brand new CEO, and she's already promising a massive return to Xbox and a recommitment to their own console hardware. For all our PlayStation players here, do you think this means the era of Xbox games coming to PS5 is over? Will they go back to strict exclusives and lock their first party games away again? Vote in the poll and drop your reasons in the comments. So we had 9% of you said yes, exclusives are definitely back. You had 29% saying no, they make too much money on PS5. 60%, I don't care, I only play on PS5. And then 2% said other, explain in the comments. So we've got a whole bunch of comments, and we'll run through some of them very quickly here. We've got Devil Angel, PlayStation and Nintendo, the future. I think you might be right. I think we might be looking at a 2-console future very soon. And then we had Melissa Martinez saying, I hope that Xbox will still put Halo and all the other games that they are bringing to PS5. But after that, I don't care. So there we go. Melissa just wants to get Halo and Forza Horizon 6 and Fable, and then Xbox can do one. They've got MJ here. I've been having a lot of fun with PlayStation VR 2. RE8 is a must-own. VR go crazy. Therefore, for many reasons, for picking, I only play in PlayStation. So we've got a PSVR 2 fan there. Cool. We've got Greg, yes, channel member with the bronze trophy there. Love it. Make sure you hit the join button on YouTube to get a trophy next to your name and support the channel directly. He has said, I think we'll see a larger focus on the hardware specifically, making better consoles, accessories, handhelds, etc. They better come up with something good. They need to come up with something good, brother. I have no idea what they're going to do, but I'll be excited to see what happens. We've got Joseph here saying, I hope so. I hope so they keep their exclusives. That would give me a better reason to play on Xbox while also playing PlayStation exclusives on the PlayStation Portal. Same reason thing I also do with Switch like I do with PS Portal. Also, I mostly use my Xbox for Game Pass and backwards compatibility for old Xbox 360 games. It's exactly what I use my Xbox for right now. Currently playing some of the old CODs that I played before on Xbox 360. Back when Call of Duty was good, absolutely. Go back to Black Ops 2, Modern Warfare 2, so freaking good. If they do exclusives, then the console wars are coming back, and we all know who really won that. See, I don't think it's about console wars. I know PlayStation has absolutely won that. They have just dominated Xbox. For me, it's not about that. Like I am lucky enough to own them all. I like them all. No matter what team you're for, competition is good. If you have an industry where one company just dominates it, they are then able to do whatever they want, whether that's good, bad, indifferent, being lazy, whatever, and charge whatever they want. Competition keeps them all on their toes. That's why even if you're just 100% PlayStation, you want Xbox to be about. It's like Batman needs its Joker, you know? We've got here McFigs in Game Pass for me. Nothing comes close. So Game Pass, I think, is probably part of the reason why Xbox is doing so poorly. They've launched this subscription service, which, yeah, it is great, but it's conditioning players not to buy games. They just go, I'll wait for it in Game Pass. And you even see now developers are just skipping launching their games on Xbox because what's the point? They've not sold anywhere near as many consoles as PlayStation 5, and then I'm pretty sure that the Switch 2 is pretty much outsold or at the same amount of sales as the Xbox Series consoles, and it's only been out for like 7 or 8 months or something like that, which is wild. But they also just don't buy as many games because they just go, I'll wait for it in Game Pass. So yeah, it's great fun, but it's on the whole, it's not good, I think, for Xbox. PlayStation have actually been a lot smarter with that, with PS Plus, where you don't get day one games, but you still get a good library of games to play. I think if Xbox would have went that route, it would have been a lot more fruitful for them, and they should have kept leaning into their backwards compatibility stuff. That was just so good. I heard she's not a gamer. The internet says a lot of things though. Anyone know the crack? Yeah, it looks like she's probably not, but I don't think that's important. But I do think having a bit of experience in the gaming industry would have been helpful. Let's see what she does though. Let's give her the benefit of the doubt. She's saying all the right things. You can't knock her for that. So if she does what she says she's going to do, Xbox should be in a better place. Whether that happens, who knows? Microsoft have said a lot of things recently and done the exact opposite. So let's see what happens. The smart move would be to lock their games to the Xbox ecosystem, console, PC, and cloud, and release them to other platforms at a later date. Forza Horizon 5 proved that this strategy works, as have countless PlayStation games. I agree. I think that would be a better move. I actually wouldn't even release them on PlayStation. I'd keep them purely exclusive on Xbox. That's just me. That's how I would do business. But yeah, that would be far better. And they need to actually have it being a meaningful timed exclusive window. None of this stuff like, I mean, what was it? I'm pretty sure Indiana Jones literally came like 2 or 3 months after it was launched on Xbox. Like, that's rubbish. That you need to make your Xbox console owner feel special. So have it locked on that console for like 2 or 3 years, then you can ship it somewhere else. I hope PS5s do go back to exclusive, as in PS only and not PC. Well, we did just talk about that on the podcast, and I think that is what is going to happen. It says here, it makes no sense from a player and business point of view. You want more players having access to your game, which means studios have more money to make their next game. Well, that seems like it's going to be the case, that it will be live service games will keep going to PC, not so much the single player games. I think they need to actually just manage their budgets better and scale games back. Not every game needs to be a 100-hour epic. You know, for real. She is lying. There we go. The Geddon knows something we don't. Joy-Con Boys says Xbox is cooked. And we've got a wee fried egg there. Let's be fair, Xbox has not been doing well at all. I have been really critical of them. I just can't believe how bad their messaging has been and the strategy they've been doing. I'm just like, who is making these decisions? I think it's Satya Nadella, the CEO, who's calling all the shots. I just don't think like Phil Spencer and anyone who understands the gaming industry would do what they've been doing. I sincerely hope she can be taken at face value, but I'll believe it when I see it. Yep, I agree. Keola of Krypton. Cal of Krypton, that'll be, I'd assume. The cynic in me has a feeling this will actually be the beginnings of winding down for Xbox as a console platform. Yeah, Cal, I feel you, my friend. I actually think that's what's going to happen as well. We've got Deer Parker here saying too early to say. Let's see what happens. I agree, buddy. Let's see. We will see what happens. M9 Prime, question for you. How come nobody talks about when remote play from Sony server saves you on electricity? What? That's not about Xbox. Right. Matthew Alexander. Exclusives don't mean anything when they all keep shuttering studios. Yeah, they need, Xbox and PlayStation need to get better at both of them at not shuttering studios. They need to manage their portfolio of studios better. I don't care if we're talking about Sony or Xbox. I agree, buddy. Both should have full native backwards compatibility. I totally agree with this as well. Imagine if your PlayStation 5 could run discs from PS1 to PS5. Just put it in and it'll play the game. That would be amazing. See, now Sony have a detachable disc drive. Surely they can build some funky hardware in there and call it like the PlayStation Super Drive. Buy it as an add-on and then you can play all your games. I know there's more to it than that, but if they need the extra chips and emulation hardware and software, just build it all into this drive. I would buy that. And have access to Steam plus their own respective services such as Game Pass or PSN. I completely disagree with that point. Why would you have access to Steam on your subsidized hardware? That makes absolutely zero business sense. And PSN with no paywall for online play. Yeah, I would like them to have no paywall for online play. We've got Microsoft to thanks for that with Xbox Live back in the day. Who had a PS3? Used to have free online multiplayer. It wasn't as good as Xbox Live, but it was free. There's no reason to not to at this point unless they want to keep bleeding players to PC. No, I think the thing that's bleeding players to PC is having all their games on PC, which is why I think PlayStation moving back from that, having exclusives again for console is a smart move. If you want to play Xbox, PlayStation exclusives, you buy a PlayStation. And I think as well, the way the hardware space is going, PCs are going to get even more expensive. So it's the value proposition there is going to go down also. This Steam thing, I don't agree with that at all. That's why I think as well, like the new Xbox, which is going to be a PC, if it is, it's probably going to be expensive because they're not going to be able to subsidize the hardware. They're not going to get a cut and a kickback of game sales via their platform if people are buying games on Steam or just playing free games from Epic Games. So I agree with most of that there, my friend, but I don't agree with this having other services on there. That's the whole point about trying to keep the console experience cheaper, is they get some of, claw back some of the expenses via, you buying games exclusively for their platform on their platform. Xbox needs PlayStation for their game sales, not the other way. And I don't think Xbox will ever be on the level of PlayStation. They need to bring out at least 7, 8 AAA games a year. Whoa, that's a lot of AAA games. But yeah, I do agree with that on the whole. I don't think they will ever get to that level either, not the way they've been managed. I think this generation, they had a really good shout at it because think about the amount of studios they owned. Their hardware was pretty good. I think the Xbox Series X is a really ugly looking console. I do not like how it looks at all. I like how the Series S looks. I do wish it had a disc drive though. But it was a good, powerful machine. They just didn't, I think, they dropped the ball with a few things, making it feel next gen. Like it had the exact same dashboard and interface as the Xbox One. So once you turned it on, you didn't really, there was no moment of, oh, this feels next gen and special. It just felt like a continuation of the Xbox One era, even more so than like PlayStation. But these games, they've not had any really good, huge AAA games that you'd go, yeah, I'd buy an Xbox for that. Other than Forza Horizon, that's the only games I think that they've absolutely smashed. Halo Infinite was a letdown. Redfall was a letdown. Forza Motorsport was a letdown. Starfield, sorry. Lots of big, misses there that should have been big successes, especially because they own half the gaming industry now. Like, come on, like that would have been their chance. Have that walled garden up. Imagine like Call of Duty was exclusive on Xbox, and I know there was a whole lawsuit and all that stuff, but there's plenty of other franchises there that they own that they could dig out and do that with. She's there for one thing and one thing only, to kill Xbox. Microsoft is getting out of the console business. I know I was trying not to say that so blatantly earlier on, but I do think that is what's going to happen. I don't think they're interested in having a console at all now. You can even see this with the Xbox, the Asus Xbox ROG Ally X. They say it's an Xbox handheld. It's not. It's a PC gaming handheld. It's extortionate. It's like £1,000, $1,000 or whatever. I even actually know of someone who spoke to me about this, wanting to get it for their kid, and they were talking about playing it as well, and they were saying about their backwards compatible game library. I had to explain you can't play them on it. Like, it doesn't play all the games you can play on your Xbox console. Like, Xbox's messaging is just so bad. Even the naming of their consoles: Xbox One, Xbox One S, Xbox One All Digital Edition, Xbox One X, Xbox Series S, Xbox Series X. Like, who signed this off? They should have just called it like the Xbox 720 or something, be done with it. At least it's a clear differentiator. I bet you the first year that the Xbox Series S and X was out, a ton of kids, their parents bought them the wrong one. You heard it here, people. I've got another response here. Why would they kill it when it's raking in £25 billion a year? She has a background in AI with zero experience in creating games. Xbox has been struggling for years, and then they give an unqualified person this job. It could be the end of Xbox. Yeah, I think you're right. We've got another response here saying none of the CEOs at any of these companies have any experience in creating games. That's what they pay developers to do. She has no experience in gaming, but by all accounts, she's very good at business, and sometimes that's all that matters. She's obviously not a stupid woman, definitely not, or she wouldn't be where she is now. So it's a case of wait and see. To say it's the end of Xbox when revenue Xbox clearly shows as a whole it's far from struggling. It's quite a stretch. Good responses. I like a good bit of healthy debate. I don't think it's positive though. I don't think Xbox is going to change its course. What do you all think? Let me know down below under this video, people. Great discussion. Thank you all for all the amazing comments, and keep your eyes peeled the next day or two for the next Gaming Coffee Club podcast question of the week, which will be up very, very soon. On to some gaming news now, and we got our PlayStation Plus monthly games. So this is for every tier, essential up to premium, and they are arriving for March, and it's a kind of weird mixture. None that really stand out to me make me think, oh yes, that's the must-play game for this month. But we have got PGA Tour 2K25 is the first one. We've also got Monster Hunter Rise. We've got Slime Rancher 2 and the Elder Scrolls Online Collection Gold Road. Now, I've played two of these games. I've played Slime Rancher 2 and I've played Monster Hunter Rise. Monster Hunter Rise is probably my pick of the month here for, what to play. If you've played any of the Monster Hunter games, you know what to expect. You kick about and hunt big monsters. 2K25, golf, simulator, good game to chill out with. Slime Rancher 2, I played this on Xbox when it launched. It went into Game Pass, like in kind of early access or something. And one thing that just was really annoying about it, I really enjoyed the first Slime Rancher. It was a really cool, chilled out game. But there was no achievements. So I'm curious to see if there's trophies in this. If there's trophies in this, I think it'd be worth going and checking out. If not, I don't know. That just bugs me. And like, it feels like the developers have just thought, I can't be bothered, 2K25, that'll be good fun to go and check out. Monster Hunter Rise, Slime Rancher 2, and then the Elder Scrolls Online. I just don't know about these kind of forever games. I think I'd be giving that a pass. But also remember your February games. You've got until the 2nd of March to claim these. make sure you do, because there's some bangers in here. We've got Ace Combat 7, Skies Unknown, absolutely brilliant game. And yeah, that's pretty cool. We've got some more games to add to our collection. If you're a PlayStation Plus subscriber, which one will you be playing first? Let me know. Our next game story is one I didn't expect to see here, and it's Screen Rant are reporting about a Bloodborne PS5 remake. And a lot of people are losing their minds about this online. We reported last week that Bluepoint Games have been closed down by Sony. They were basically the kind of remake masters, I guess you could say, remake and remaster masters. And they had pitched Sony to do a Bloodborne remake in 2025. And apparently all the numbers made sense, sounded good. Sony were into it, so were Bluepoint Games, obviously, because they pitched it. And it was FromSoft who apparently felt differently. Last week, Sony announced the closure of Bluepoint Games, putting a definitive end to any lingering possibility of a Bluepoint Bloodborne remake. We were so close, yet so far. So they'd previously handled the remake, this is Bluepoint, of FromSoft's Demon's Souls, which released to market success and general acclaim. Nonetheless, the remake also received criticism for changes to the art design of Demon's Souls, which critics argued watered down the original game's striking atmosphere. So Jason Schreier of Bloomberg was talking about this on a Kind of Funny Games interview, where he had mentioned that the FromSoft president might have been one of those critics who didn't like the remake of Demon's Souls from Bluepoint Games. And he also cites an interview from PlayStation executive Shuhei Yoshida, which suggested that Miyazaki didn't want anyone else to touch it, a Bloodborne remake. So on the bright side, that suggests that Miyazaki himself could eventually helm the remake if he has time over at FromSoft. So I guess that would be a win-win for anyone who wants a Bloodborne remake. But as you can imagine, the internet being the internet, they were not happy about this and, voiced their opinion, as we had a tweet from Shinobi602 sharing the Bloomberg news, and it had a ton of responses of people who are upset. And we had Doug arguing that a Bloodborne remake could have literally saved Bluepoint from closure, which is probably true. It's a shame. And Attic Michael goes as far to suggest that the real villains were FromSoft all along. So yeah, what do we think about this? That's a shame. If this could have been, the savior of Bluepoint Studios here, and gamers would have got a Bloodborne remake which they've been after for a long time. But it doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon. Would you have liked to have seen this? Sound off in the comments. We got the first look at Kratos and Atreus in Amazon's upcoming God of War TV show. I'll make it a bit bigger for you if you're watching this on YouTube or on Spotify. And I don't know. I have thoughts. Yeah. What do you all think about this? So this is the other big TV show which is in the works at Amazon right now. They have got the Lara Croft Tomb Raider show, which is shooting right now, and that is Sophie Turner who's playing Lara Croft. And I think they got off on the wrong foot with that, because she looks nothing like Lara Croft. It would just be nice if they hired, actors and actresses to look like the characters they're meant to play, instead of just shoehorning people into these roles and then saying, oh, it's a reimagining. It's like, no, just give us someone that looks like the characters we're playing in the games. That's the whole point, right? Or one of the points. But this is Ryan Hurst and Callum Vinson as Kratos and Atreus. And, the little dude looks pretty cool as Atreus. I'm not going to lie. It's the main man, God of War, Kratos himself here, which I'm a bit like, oh, something looks off. So I guess like the kind of costume, you can nitpick about this, but it just all looks a little bit clean, doesn't it? It looks very clean. And the part which doesn't look clean, which I think doesn't look like Kratos, is his beard is very unkept. I'll try and get a picture of the two of them side by side, but Kratos' beard looks a bit fuller and more shapely. Like, do you see what I mean there? Like, much fuller beard, more shaped. The character in the live action shot here. It looks really scraggly. I just don't like it. But that's our first look at that. So shooting's underway with this. I still have high hopes because the Fallout TV show was also on Amazon Prime, and it's fantastic. It's so freaking good. Well, the first season is. I've not, started the second season yet. So hopefully they nail this, as all of this is down to personal opinion, what you think. You might think this looks amazing or whatever. I don't know. Something just seemed off. I was like, oh, right, okay, what? So fingers crossed they nail this. The whole cast, the supporting actors and stuff like that, it all looks really good. So fingers crossed this is just an early shot, and when we actually see it in the live action show, maybe when we get a trailer or whatever, it looks even better. But I have high hopes for this one. This could be amazing. Fingers crossed. Just grow out your beard and get it shaped a bit better, man. Come on, that's all we need, Kratos. Are you looking forward to this? Let me know. So here was me thinking last week with Blue Point Games being closed by Sony was going to be the busiest week, and then Xbox just said hold my beer, and their CEO retired, and they put a new one in place who's an AI exec, and the gaming world just imploded. So it has been wild, and that has been another week in the Gaming Coffee Club podcast. Thank you all for hanging out with me. We'll see you here next week for more gaming news.